Now we've reached the exciting conclusion where we can see what these blanks look like now that they've had enough time to cure. So we went with the purple, and we can see in there that this is something that was not in the pressure pot, and you can see that there's a bunch of little micro bubbles. There's also a little bit of a weird cloudy area right there. What's happening from that is there's moisture and other things that are getting into the air and other contaminants that cause that to happen, so we want to be careful about that. We have the two that are right here, and you'll see that there's a little bit of resin that's right in there. You can see it pooled up on there. They make like little pancakes. But this is another reason why I like having that little volcano set up on there, is because these will just, they come right off. Like you can just use your fingers, or if you open it up from the sides, then they'll come out that way as well. So we have two of them there, one that was in the pressure pot and one that wasn't, so we can compare the difference between them, so you can see what they look like with the opaque ones, or I'm sorry, the translucent. So you can just take those off if you wanted to, or you can just open it over the top of the garbage that you have. It's right there, and either way works. I kind of like doing that because then anything that's coming off is falling right in. So we'll see if we can tell which one this is. And we have one here. So this is one of them that we have, and this happens rarely, but of course because I'm filming right now, that's why it's going to be happening here. You can just, it gets stuck in here this way, so you can start to peel it out a little bit that way if you wanted to. Or if it's really stubborn, you can use a tool of some kinds, let's say the little metal one here. This is one that I really like for that, because then you can start to push down on some of the pieces, and then the rest of this should be released a little bit more easily, but there's something that's still catching, so we'll see what that one is. Okay. So we're wiggling that out a little bit, and so we have one of the blanks that's right here, and we're going to set that one down, and we're going to do the same thing for the other one here. So doing the same thing, but now I'm not even going to touch those at all, so I'm just going to start peeling that off from the sides right there, and we can see what that's starting to look like. And then peeling these off. I usually take this out a little bit sooner, so it may have been taking a little bit too much time to cure. Should be part of it, but I'm peeling that off here. And taking this one out as well. So we're going to take a look at both of these here, right next to each other, and we can see the difference. So let's see, as it's showing up in here, one of these doesn't have any bubbles in there whatsoever. You can't see anything else. Anything that you might see on there is a little dust that I'm just brushing off, as you can see. And then right there on the inside, that's actually the maker's mark on the inside. This other one here has a lot of clouds right there, and you can see little bubbles on there. It almost looks like a soda or something else. So there's a noticeable difference in clarity. And so that's what's happening with the pressure pot, is all these tiny little bubbles. There's the same amount of bubbles that appear in both of them, but the pressure of here actually makes those bubbles explode out into tiny little subatomic ones, so they're really hard to see. Versus this one here, where they all cluster up wherever they decide to go. And so it makes for kind of a big mess on the inside as well. So you can see on there, if you're doing anything that's going to be translucent or somewhat translucent, you have to use a pressure pot for it. If you're going fully opaque, so if you're using something like that, Smoothcast 300 or similar, where it goes completely opaque, then you don't have to worry about that. Now, the next thing that we end up doing after this is taking the remaining sprues and removing them. So sometimes they'll just pop right off like the ones that you saw there. Other times we'll use something like a flesh cutter, which I will use here, and I'm going to go directly over that garbage as well. So then they just drop right in, so you don't have to worry about it. So this goes extremely fast with these here. So you just clip off the ones here. On the inside there's 4, and on the outside there is 8. So there's a total of 12 there. And it's a lot. So if it's something that bothers you, you can also clip off some of them, so then you have less on there. But the other nice thing about it is having all of the different channels in there means that you have the highest success rate with these as well. So I've clipped off all the sprues here, so it's in pretty good shape right now, but you can still see that it's a little rough around the edges. So the next thing I want to do is sand it. I have a separate work area that I usually use to do the sanding. In this example here, I'm going to be putting this on the the workbench area here, and that's not something that I will ever do. All right, and trusty little cereal boxes, so that way you don't want to have any kind of dust or anything that's appearing on there. And now I'm going to take that and I'm going to give it, just set it down and then keep it as flat as possible. Going in a little bit of a circle. Until it starts to feel like it's not catching as much anymore. Just give it a little bit of wipe, and you can see that there's still a little bit of the sprue mark visible, so I'll do it again. Okay, and in this example here, this is 150 grit. You can do 220, or you can do a different one if you want. What some makers like to do is they like to go step it up with each one of those, so then you can have anything up to like a mirror gloss for the bottom. Just depends on your own personal preference for it. And there is some leeway with this as well, so with the cavity inside you can sand away and still have enough where it's going to fit fully on the stem. That's starting to get close, but as you can see there's still a little bit of a line there from it, so I'm going to give it just a little bit more after that. And it also depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. So okay, that's looking pretty good right now. The next thing you can do is if you have an air compressor, you can just blast it off with that, which is really nice, and that's what I typically do, but I'm not going to set that up for this one right here. It just gives you the general idea though of I'm just going to brush a little bit of it off. And you can have something where you have just a nice clean blank that you can use, and it's the exact same process if you add a sculpted cap as well. You just go in there, sand it off in the same ways, so it's nice and smooth the way that you like it, and looks great for pictures, and so then you're good to go. So that is it. That's how you cast keycaps from start to finish. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave a reply down at the bottom, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can on that one. Otherwise, enjoy.